Today on MuscleCar, Altered Ego gets some cut and paste action. An expert shows us how a convertible top is installed. And a look at Plymouth's contribution to the MuscleCar craze.
Hey guys, welcome to MuscleCar. A Tribute Trans Am is hanging out waiting for a Heavy's custom upholstery to come by and install the new lid. The sheet metal work is finished up on our 61 Impala and it's ready to get knocked back off the chassis for final body work. Now our 64 Comet, well, this poor thing looks like something out of the Flintstones. So that means we got a lot of work to do here today. But it's all going to start with the floors in Altered Ego. Last time you saw our Comet drag car, we got the new firewall in and fabbed up a removable transmission cross member. Now eventually we need to build a floor all the way to the back and tie it into what's left of the original. But first things first, we need to build toe boards, and that means, you guessed it, templates. I already cut a piece of cardboard to roughly the size I need. After marking where the first crease is going to be, I can set the clearance for the transmission tunnel. After some trimming, I'm ready to transfer the pattern to some steel. The shear can chop off the extra material, and the plasma, that'll give me the clearance I need for the roll bar. A quick visit to the brake, and she's ready for a test fit. Now, panel's looking pretty good, but looks can be deceiving, because from the factory, they actually had a stepped floorboard to make clearance for the pedals. And that means we're going to have to cut up a brand new floorboard and follow that contour. Now there are fancier ways to get this done, like using a hammer and a shop bag and finishing out the shape with the English wheel. But hey, we're keeping it old school with the cut and paste method, cutting out the pieces and stitching them together. A hole punch is a big time saver, but it does have drawbacks. Hey, the jaw is only 3/4 of an inch deep. But that's why we have cordless drills. Just make sure to drill into a piece of wood and don't ram the bit into the floor. With the cut and paste out of the way, I can finish out the floorboards by making room for the roll bar. Perfect.
That's pretty cool, man. Get some floors in here finally.
Yeah, it's getting there. I can't weld them in yet, though, because I don't know what seats are going to go in it. So I got to put bracing and stuff in. I got a cool idea, though, I'm working on. So we can still do the tunnel, though. Got any ideas?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking maybe a hex tunnel. Just bring it back to like right here. But you know, we still got to put a draw shaft hook in it somewhere.
Yeah, I'd like to put one front and rear, actually. I'm going to have to drive this thing.
Yeah, I heard that.
And just keep it round in the center?
Yeah.
So, cool, that'll work. Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it, man.
We don't own stock at a paper mill, but we should with as much cardboard as we go through around here. If you're having trouble finding sheets large enough, we'll go down and make friends with the guys in the loading dock at your local grocery store. It's often used for wrapping and padding pallets. After marking where the bends will be, a straight edge helps get the shape needed.
All right.
The shifter hole can be cut out now while it's still flat, so it's time to make a few sparks. A series of 45-degree bends will form the hex shape of the tunnel. With the tunnel in place, Brent can mark what needs to be trimmed out of the firewall and toe boards. A couple more marks and the rest can be trimmed to match. How's it coming, man?
Well, the transmission's covered up.
Oh, we got a Trans Am over here that needs to be covered up.
Cool, man. Let me get this welded up. I'll see you over.
Cool, I'll get it ready.
Coming up, thinking of installing your own convertible top? Find out why it's good to have a pro around.
Hey, we're back. The Tribute Trans Am is getting closer to hitting the street every week. and we're ready to make a big leap in its progress by installing the convertible top. Ready to put it in?
Yeah, we need to get the frame installed and adjusted, and then they can put the top on there.
Cool, we can do that. Let's get it mounted.
Let's do it, man.
Make sure you mount the cylinders into the brackets and install them as one unit, or you'll be taking them out again later. Everything needs to be bolted together, but we'll leave it loose because we've got a lot of adjustments to make. The weather stripping goes in now so the windows will be in the correct position when we adjust the top. Well, now that we've got the weather stripping installed, it's on to the hard part, actually adjusting the frame. Now, I am no convertible top expert, but I do know someone who is. Kevin Lindemood from Heavy's Custom. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
He's gonna come in, bail me out, and help me set this thing up. So what do we do next, man?
I like to make this adjustment so it'll clear the door glass right now. We get this set, and then we can adjust the length.
Gotcha. So you're actually starting on the back and working your way forward?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Show me what to do.
I'm liking that right there.
Kevin's been doing this for a lot of years, so I'm just letting him guide me through the long, drawn-out process. Sometimes, hey, you just got to put your faith in an expert.
I like that. This is way too high. You can actually let that one down a little bit. Actually, right there is where I like it. Got a bigger gap here than I want it, so we need to adjust the 3.
And slide the whole assembly forward?
I think forward and down maybe. I like where we got it here. Let's leave that. Let's tighten everything up right there. Let's see, we're better than we were here a minute ago. Okay, yeah, that helped us. I've got this gap where I like it now. We just need to adjust this window to fit, to make this gap right. I think we'll be good. I need to bring the bottom forward. I can live with that.
Oh, I'm glad that's over with.
Well, nobody said it was going to be easy.
No kidding, huh?
Man, you guys look a little tired. Why don't you go get you a little cold drink, and I'll take care of these hydraulics for you.
For me, let's go get an ice cold soda.
Sounds good to me.
We should have put the first lines on the cylinders before we installed them, so they had to come back out. A line from the top of each cylinder goes into a T-fitting, which then gets attached to the hydraulic pump. These provide the pressure for opening the top. A second T-fitting splits the lines out to the bottom of the cylinders, providing the pressure for closing the top. We mocked up the electrical connections to test it out, but the final installation will include a toggle switch hidden in the console. The pump is cycled to bleed the air out of the lines. Now only fill the reservoir 3/4 full each time, or you might damage the seals. We're using auto-trans fluid instead of brake fluid, because if it spills, well, it won't damage the paint. You'll have to repeat the bleeding process several times before there's enough pressure to raise the cylinders. The original clips are going back in to hold the lines in place. Hey, right on. Looks like you got it working.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
Well, let's get the chrome on here and get these tack strips in the top frame.
Putting the trim back on is a touchy procedure. If you get frustrated with it, just walk away for a while, because it's too easy to cause some permanent damage here. I'll tell you what, dude, the next one of these I do, I'm bringing it over and let you put this on.
Thanks.
The tack strips go on next. Laying them on the bolts and tapping the backside with a hammer will leave marks to show where the holes need to be drilled. Weather strip adhesive will hold them in place with the help of a couple of clamps while they dry. The front strips are held down with 1/8" rivets. Kevin's using aluminum ones so they won't rust. Right on, man. Looks like we're about ready to put on the material, huh?
Yes, we need to work on the tack rail. The well liner and the curtain will go on first.
Okay, well, cool. Tell you what, you do that, and we're going to take a little break. But hang tight, because coming up later in the show, we'll show you how a pro stretches out a convertible top.
Next on MuscleCar, we're going commando in a Plymouth GTX. Today's Flashback, a '67 Plymouth GTX.
In the mid to late 60s, your choices for muscle car performance were virtually endless. Pontiac had pioneered the concept of a total muscle car package with the GTO back in '64, and Plymouth wanted a piece of that action. So for 1967, they came out with a car built to be raced, right off the showroom floor. With a wink and a nod to its inspiration, they called it the GTX. Before the GTX, if you walked into a Plymouth dealer, you could get a muscle car. You just had to know what options to pick out. The GTX removed all that guesswork. To boost interest, Richard Petty had already been racing one on the circuits, breaking records and picking up 27 trophies along the way. Plymouth started with its popular Belvedere model and gave it race car looks by adding hood scoops, dual tailpipes, and a pit stop style gas cap. Inside you got bucket seats and a beefy torque flight transmission. A heavy-duty suspension was added, combining stiffened shocks and 6-leaf rear springs so it could handle tight turns with ease. To top it all off, they dropped in the brand new Super Commando engine. With 440 cubes of raw power, churning out 375 horses, this car was instantly transformed into a road rocket. Mopar used a similar 440 in its big cars like the Chrysler Imperial, but they made a few changes to up the power and torque. By revising the camshaft and valve train and adding a free flow intake and exhaust, they were able to coax 100 more horsepower out of it. The GTX only weighed in at around 3,500 pounds, meaning it got about 1 horsepower for every 9 pounds. No wonder it's so fast. The GTX only had one engine option available, the Hemi, but it would cost you an extra $564. When you compare 0 to 60 times, the 440 was actually faster with 7 seconds versus the Hemi 7.4. This was because the 440 reached its peak torque at 3,200 RPM, while the Hemi, well, it had to spin all the way up to 4,000. The Hemi did outrun the 440 on the quarter mile though, 15 seconds to the 440's 15.4. In '67, all Belvederes, including the GTX, received some minor styling changes. The front grille now featured quad headlights and a more prominent center horizontal bar. GTXs, though, featured a red, white, and blue emblem in the center. Both cars had a redesigned lower deck panel with a more fluid horizontal sweep and featured a brushed metal center section. This GTX is tricked out with some cool factory options, like the bullet-style turn signals on top of the fenders, embossed vinyl upholstery, and a floor console complete with a tach. Despite its racing pedigree, Plymouth only managed to move about 12,500 GTXs in '67. It just had a hard time competing against the more established names out there in the muscle car field. Style was probably also a factor. GM and Ford were adding more curves to their cars, which the customers loved, while Plymouth, well, stuck with the same straight body lines and angular styling. But this uniqueness, combined with low production numbers, are what make it a highly sought-after car today. Yeah, and good luck trying to get your hands on this one.
Up next, how do you finish out a convertible top? Stretch, smooth, and staple. And staple. And staple. And staple. 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 Staple.
Hey, we're back. Kevin's got the well liner attached to the tack strip, and next comes the rear curtain. So what do we need to do here?
We're going to line up our marks on the curtain and start tacking it to the tack rail, and then we'll cut our holes for our bolts to go through.
Cool.
This is all subject to adjustment later.
Key's Auto Top sent us the back window and well liner. To make installation easier, they pre-marked the center, where the tack strips need to go, and where the mounting holes need to be. The window is temporarily tacked in place while the tack strips are attached. The bolts for the tack strips are a pain in the butt to reach, so it's time to put the skinny guy in the trunk. Once the back is anchored in place, we can pull out the temporary staples and set the height of the rear bow.
That sets at 22.5 right in the middle.
Next come the pads. They'll support the top and help it keep its shape. Well, it's probably obvious by now. If you're going to attempt to install a top yourself, you better have a lot of patience and a really good staple gun. With the pads in place, it's time to get the rear window tightened up. The trick here is to pull it as smooth and flat as possible. The rear tack strip needs to come back out because the cover gets pinched in between the tack strip and the body. There we go. After a little trimming, we're ready for the main event. Keys Auto Tops hooked us up with their Mercedes cloth cover. They also offer vinyl tops, but this isn't a low budget build, so we went with the top of the line.
Right there, that's good.
Perfect. Keys has patterns for cars dating back to the 20s, so if you think nobody makes a top for your car, you might want to give them a call. The top comes with a string already threaded through the cover to make installing the tension cables a snap. This anchor strip will hold the top to the center bow, but the tension cables must be installed first. With the top in the up position, Kevin marks where the material will wrap over the front of the header.
Yeah.
The weather stripping is removed to make way for some glue. Then the material is wrapped in place. The excess material is trimmed out from around the rear windows and the weather stripping can go on. A welting strip finishes out the front edge and a few more staples will hold it down. The last piece of the puzzle is called Hide 'em. Why is it called Hide 'em? Because it hides the staples. Duh. It's made with an aluminum core that easily folds over for a clean look, and some gentle pounding with a leather-covered hammer flattens it out. The final touch is a couple of end caps. Beautiful job on the top, man. If there's one thing I've learned today, it's that I will not be attempting this anytime soon. Thanks a lot for the help, man. I really appreciate it. It's worth it having a pro on the job.
Well, thanks. Thanks. Glad to help.
So, hey, we're out of time for today, so until next time, we're out of here.
Let's go get us a beer, man.
Sounds good.
Works for me.